r/AskReddit. Parents of Reddit, how do you feel when your kid brings back a girlfriend/boyfriend? How do you decide whether you like them or not? I come from a middle class Indian immigrant family and my parents were never cool with us kids having boyfriends. So when at the age of 25 I brought my boyfriend home, they were a bit hesitant and took a long time to open up to him. My mom went all mother-in-law mode and felt she had to keep up appearances. If he came over and she was laying on the couch, she would get up and act all formal. The first day he met my dad, I asked my dad afterwards what he thinks of my boyfriend. His response was, "Don't lose him, that's all." Now he comes over and hangs out with them without an ounce of formality. They all have little inside jokes with him, my siblings included. My parents went car shopping and I didn't get to go, so my dad asked if the boyfriend and I would go take a look at the car one day after work. They just really wanted him to check it out too, which felt so special to me because they value his opinion and he's part of the family now. I never would have imagined that my family would welcome him like this. Melts my heart. My mother-in-law assumed I was some sort of player when I first met her before my first date with my wife. Even told my wife that she assumed I went on lots of dates back at school. Jokes on her. I spent the entirety of my freshman year before I met my wife, enjoying the sweet internet speed of my dorm room and playing the shit out of Halo 3, Mass Effect 1 and 2, picking up drunk dorm mates from house parties at 3 AM and going on exactly 0 dates. After years of getting to know my mother-in-law, she just didn't want her daughter to get into a long-distance relationship, then end up moving out of state with me if we got married and I was still there, which ended up happening. Whoops, my girlfriend's mom hated me the first few months of our relationship. Except it didn't have anything to do with me. My girlfriend was widowed at a young age. Her mom had a good relationship with my girlfriend's former husband. She was really mean, to put it bluntly. She really didn't want us to be together. Finally, after about a half year, she gave me a really nice heartfelt apology and we've gotten along great ever since. When my oldest daughter introduced her first serious boyfriend, he was an awkward kind of guy, was pretty unremarkable, but he got super animated about topics that interested him. I had a chat with him about my daughter. He got animated. They've been married for 9 years. Good guy, works hard, is a staunch advocate for his wife, and I love his smile when he looks at their kids. My oldest son's first girlfriend was not an emotional investment. He was willing to make she was pretty, but that was it. I scolded him. He got defensive, almost married her, but she made the mistake of asking my son about my money. About a year later, he brought home a beautiful, talented woman with an electric personality and more self-confidence than even my cocksure eldest, and I was never more proud of him than when he took that dive. Their kids are incredible. Great couple. My second daughter just introduced us to a college friend of hers. He seems like a decent person. He's young, but he's got a head on his shoulders and seems able to conduct himself politely. I'll need more time to figure it out. My youngest son had a high school sweetheart girlfriend that's now his college girlfriend. When I first met her, she was 9, so I'm pretty enamored with her. Her parents have babysat and house sat for us, and they're all good people. My youngest daughter has introduced me to a girlfriend from her trade school recently. Pretty sure she has been dating her for a couple years. She's angry, contrary, and bitter. Under all that baggage, it's hard to tell, but I'm hoping that my home can be a place where she can just let whatever angers her so much disappear for a while and I can find out who she actually is. I've asked a good friend of my daughter's if there's ever been any signs of violence, as that's my only real concern, but so far it seems fine on that front. My youngest has always been a bit more subdued and contemplative than my others, so I'm hoping that whatever bitterness is in her girlfriend's life doesn't hurt her. This relationship is the most concerning one to me because my daughter is a very sensitive person and I fear for her happy, cheerful spirit. I don't know why, but this post filled me with such emotion. I even got a little teary-eyed. Reminds me of my first girlfriend's mom. I always felt like she saw right through me, but not in a bad way because I was crazy about her daughter. Just that she could tell how happy we were together and that she was happy for us. One time we got done fooling around and came back to her place. I'm in the kitchen talking to her and her mom. My shirt was inside out the whole time. Finally after a while the mom interrupts the conversation with a huge grin on her face and asks if my shirt had been inside out when we left. We both turned so red and my girlfriend made some excuse and fled the kitchen leaving me there with her mom. The mom practically was gut laughing as I flipped my shirt right side in and put it back on. I can still feel how red my ears were to this day and how angry I was at my girlfriend. But her mom always had this smile on her face when we spoke that made me think she knew how much I cared about her daughter. She has 2 younger siblings that I became somewhat important to, and that was the hardest part of the breakup. Not a mother, but I'm a sister to a lovely brother. He had brought some girls in house in his teenage years, and instantly I would know if I liked them or not. The first one he brought was super rude with me and my parents. She would eat alone in the bedroom when we are having dinner, force my brother to be mean to me, etc. Few months after the relationship ended in a really bad way. After that brought some girls. Didn't talk so much with them, but they were nice and sweet. Didn't last long, less than 2 months. The last one he brought, when I talked to her, just one thought came to mind: she's the one. 5 or 6 years later, here they are, living together. I told my now brother-in-law he was going to marry my sister 8 years before they got married. My grandmother died, and he dropped everything to drive several hours out of state for the funeral, and then back again that night, because he had to work. Didn't matter that he'd be exhausted, or that they'd only been dating a few months. She needed him, so he was there, quietly and without fuss or expectation. He's a great guy who chooses my sister every day of their relationship, and I love him for it. I've given my daughter the best advice I can give her, and she sleeps and bounds better at relationships than a lot of older adults I know. She's nearly drinking age where we are from. That's not to brag though, as a lot of what I told her was, don't do the same dumb crap I did. Well, that and to always know her worth. The moment someone makes her feel less important than they are, they get the boot. She doesn't try to fix people she dates. You are who you are, and if you're not right then oh well. A direct quote. Honestly, it's something she said to me once that helped me be better off when dating. Married now. I'd made the remark that I hadn't understood some sappy things people do when they're in love. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, that's because you've loved but never been in love. She wasn't wrong, and as much as I sometimes hate to admit it, she rarely is. That caused me to examine the relationship I was in under closer scrutiny than I ever had before. My husband today is the most amazing husband and father we could have asked for, but never realized until now that we deserved. That's because you've loved but never been in love. Not many things strike a chord with me as much as this does. In high school I just got into relationships because that's what you did, and I guess I enjoyed the steps up until actually being in the relationship. I think it's referred to as the chase. Needless to say, my longest of 7 relationships was 4 months, and I've been single ever since the last one, 3 years ago. I'm only 20, and I know it'll change, but it just doesn't feel like there's any girl out there that I could actually fall in love with that will also love me back. I've loved before, and I've been loved by a lot, but it's always mutually exclusive for me. Here's my dad's take. He liked my ex-boyfriend at first because he was initially polite and friendly, and I was very happy with him. However, my dad started to notice red flags later on and his opinion of him changed. For example, when we came back to my place from a day trip, he had sulked because I didn't show the enthusiasm he wanted about his favorite landmark. My dad told him that he should forgive me, but he still would not stop whining. My dad later told me that his reaction was blown out of proportion. Basically, my dad would decide whether or not to like any guy I bring home based on the way he treats me. Edit. I did not show zero interest in what my ex liked. I just wasn't as over the top excited as he wanted me to be. Sounds similar to my dad, except the first red flag was a little more obvious. I was with my ex for 5-ish years, and at first my entire family adored him, but toward the end of our relationship he started to change. I worked in a retail store back during the recession, and sure I hated working there, but there weren't exactly other options. My ex didn't like me working there either, because it wasn't a real job, but he was embarrassed to tell people I worked there, and told me that if I didn't quit he'd leave me. Keep in mind that he had no job at this time. That was the closest my dad ever came to nearly punching someone in the face for me. Side note. Ex's mother also gave him an earful when he repeated this to her, as if proud of himself, and told me she was embarrassed that he had no shame. So I guess it wasn't just my parents that saw red flags that day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more videos like this. Don't forget to leave your stories in the comments below.